Test, test, test. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. So I think this is really timely given the conversation that we just heard with Boris and Stripe. So thanks everyone for being here. I'm Anna Whitson Diaz. I'm a senior partnerships manager at SDF working on the aid and humanitarian portfolio. I'm just going to have a little bit of a conversation here today with Carmen Hett, the treasurer of UNHCR. So we're really excited to have her. And before we kind of begin the fireside chat, I don't have a fancy slide, but I have some interesting metrics that I thought were just really impactful to share. I should have put them up on a bolded slide, but today we're going to be talking a little bit about the humanitarian use case and how we're using Stellar Aid Assist and other blockchain-based technologies in partnership with our colleagues at UNHCR to help in the face of humanitarian crises and emergencies. So right now, according to UNHCR itself, 1 in 69 people worldwide, so that's about 1.5% of the global population, is forcibly displaced due to either conflict or natural disaster. So we're thinking about this as a use case. It's potentially huge, affecting 1.5% of the world. And so we know with climate change, with the socio-political context as it is in many parts of the world, this is an emerging use case that's only becoming more important. So we're really happy to have Carmen here from UNHCR to talk to us a little bit about how UNHCR is using this technology, how they're using it now, and how they want to go forward. Because I know many of you have probably seen Carmen around the Stellar ecosystem for a few years. And UNHCR is really looking to scale this technology and is really, looking at, well, I'll let her speak to that, but is really scaling up this technology in really impactful ways. We want to talk a little bit about what the future looks like. So maybe I'll just start with a question for Carmen. And it's based on some comments that we heard from some of your leadership at the UNGA, the UN General Assembly, a few weeks ago now. So we heard the Deputy High Commissioner, Kelly Clement, say that using financial technology for aid disbursements, UNHCR has already saved $12 million in Ukraine and could eventually see efficiency gains of up to $60 million. And that they're currently saving 30% against currency devaluation through using this technology in Argentina. So I was just wondering if you could share with us, please feel free to share a few thoughts in general, but also what do you think these efficiency gains mean for the organization and using this technology at scale?
Yes, hello everyone. So yeah, of course, these savings, this is more money for the refugees. Goes directly back into the system. It's very powerful, especially as we were just saying that we have so many people on the move, so 120 million, so potentially these are all clients of ours. So imagine yourself, you have a business and 120 million are your clients. And it's also for donors, so donors, we work with donors fund us, and also private sector donors, so high net worth individuals, private sector, corporate sector. People who fund us, it's our job to make sure that we have the most efficient way and effective way to deliver aid assistance. So the fact that private sector has solutions that we are using is obviously very compelling, and the fact that we are championing this is good for us, but it's good for Stellar as well to really showcase it can make such a difference, and the difference is huge. Now, the 12 million savings that we have made is not all on blockchain, but the 12 million savings come really from the Ukraine emergency situation where we will be able to use automated payment solutions, which usually would cost us X, and now they cost us about 3% less than they normally would do. So overall, we delivered around a 1% charge on aid assistance for the Ukraine emergency efforts. So I think this is just the beginning. So it's the beginning of making sure that we understand the value proposition. And we just heard that, whether it's delivered in stable coins, whether it's delivered in fiat, all these options need to be available for these most vulnerable people. So it's not just about the technology, it's making sure in the end of the day that the aid is actually usable and can be transacted. So that's what it is. But it goes from there and beyond. So the more we can do, the more we can deliver as aid assistance in monetary form, but also having different credentials for education and work or health. So that means people can also go and get their vaccine on a value transfer that allows them to have that consumption of a vaccine, for example. So this is really the compelling story overall.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know you've been using blockchain, using Stellar Aid Assist. So for those of you who don't know, that's our Stellar Disbursement platform technology that's kind of use case agnostic, but under this humanitarian use case, obviously this is what UNHCR has been using in Ukraine. That's been operational for several years. I know you've done now some work in Argentina with migrants in Argentina, which is what we mentioned about the currency devaluation, also helping from that side. Can you talk a little bit about where you're going next?
Yeah.
So I know sometimes you don't know where the next humanitarian emergency is going to pop up, but maybe you have some thoughts about what's next.
No, we do need to know where we are going. So the emergencies are something else. But so the key is to scale up, to see how we can use this technology, yet in different aspects, like I just alluded to having a financial gateway, to making sure that all the UN systems and the partner organizations, NGOs, can really use this technology. So it's not just about UNHCR, but it's also for others to be able to use these exact same ways, modalities as we have them. And so it's about having collaborative opportunities to harness them fully across, and to making sure that, for example, like the Stellar Disbursement platform is really multi-tenant, so any of the organizations who would like to deliver in such a way like UNHCR does, they can do as well as we do. So it's really to open these solutions much wider for others to be used. And our next steps are really concretely in the sense to more scale up. So we have already scaled up quite a bit more in Ukraine, Latin America, and obviously our use cases for Africa also are waiting. I think what we just heard before from Stripe in that sense, also, whether we have to deliver in fiat or whether we can deliver in digital, and the whole ecosystem, whether the ecosystem in that particular jurisdiction is really ready to receive digital, or whether we still need to have cash outs in fiat. So it's still complex if we think of 130 countries where we are in. So it's not just one country or one emergency. So the key would be to really scale up and have this preparedness and readiness in emergencies, specifically that that we are really ready and the money can really flow, if I can talk like that. And furthermore, like we heard, like if, in cases where we have preparedness for climate and so forth, that we actually can do these payments even before. So that's quite exciting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, am I still working? Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about, this is like slightly off topic, but something that I know is really close to your heart about, and you alluded to this before, but about how potentially the disbursement technology and how this payments technology could become part of a larger UN wallet. I know this is something that you're kind of an advocate for.
Yeah. So when we talk about payments, blockchain and payments, we also need to talk about digital ID, data privacy. So we need to have tools as well to make sure that a wallet can actually deal with that integration, knowing who is who, and making sure that the money actually goes to the people it's meant to go to. So on that side, we were looking at how we would construct such a UN wallet. So we're talking about the UN Financial Gateway, which would mean we know how the payment rails actually work through, going the throughput of the money. But before comes the wallet. So we were just saying before, people have wallets, whether they are, it's the first time I heard this in this conference, the wallet on the fly. So the wallet on the fly, the vibrant wallet, how this wallet could be so much more with credentials, whether it's credentials for health, for education, for work, cross-border, and also for payments, of course. So it really opens up, I would say, to some extent, the Pandora box in the sense of digital ID, data protection, but then that you actually have all these service levels available to everyone as they need them and really can go about their lives. So it's not just inclusion. I think we discussed this here today as well. You know, it's really empowerment, making sure that you actually, as a refugee or as a forcibly displaced person, that you actually can go about your lives as you have to, as any of one here is actually going about their lives. So that's, I would say that's the immediate frontier. I think it's difficult, even though we have been championing on payments, it's very difficult to get organizations together, and I think that's also sovereign ID. You know, there are many issues around all of this. How we deal with a wallet that provides these credentials, I think, if I can talk like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I also want to know a little bit about what your call to action is for different stakeholders. So I see a lot of different stakeholders in the room. We've got some SDF people, some bilateral governments, some UN people, some big NGOs. I think I know what your call to action would be for UN agencies. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but to kind of sign up as a tenant, maybe test this technology, especially the cash disbursement technology, and kind of come on board with that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But do you have calls to action for kind of UN agencies, NGOs, technology providers, wallets, like in the room, about how they can help push this process forward and what we need them to be doing in order to, you know, make this technology scale and be more efficient?
Yeah. Well, alone we cannot do it, so that's clear. So we need to have a lot more cohesion, a lot more working together. So it seems actually simple what I'm saying here, but it's about to create these collaborative opportunities and to make sure that we all can champion these solutions and moving forward. So I think it's an inspiration, especially if we also, you know, talk about that wallet, as I was just talking about. There's so much more to do on all fronts. And, you know, whilst we have gone already quite far in some ways, because internally we need to convince people what we can do next, and to make sure that we can really work together. But ultimately, it's not so much about technology, it's really how we want to work together. And, you know, to some extent also to keep down some egos. People tell me, leave the ego at the door. And now myself, that's not a problem. But I would say that, you know, it has more something to do about the softer side of softer skills, how we work together, and making sure that we understand the issues, and we just had to be reminded how many people are on the move. You know, the key would be it's with sadness we would have to say we leave these solutions on the side, where in fact they are there to be used, and also to be, I would say, to be tweaked, because some of the things that we need, you know, you could argue is not new. We know how to access the financial ecosystems in most countries around the world. The UN and its organizations has been in, you know, 130 countries plus, so there is nothing in that sense new. But what is new is that we actually can reach people with speed, with transparency, with accountability to our donors, and that is really in real time. So it's not waiting for months how this could be reported upon. It's really to have that trail there and then. And it's track and trace, and obviously advocating for the people we care for, because so many more people actually are in need of aid, and we never meet actually our full potential to fundraise. So most of the UN is in the order of 50% funded, not fully funded. So we really need to, if you like, it's on our side to make sure that we actually can convey to our donor base that we actually are using, you know, the best tools out there is. So it's so compelling. It's so compelling.
Just maybe one final question, because I want to leave some time for the Q&A. But I wonder, you know, as an organization that's leading in this space, obviously you probably had to overcome some risk aversion in the organization at first, or, you know, had a bit of convincing to do from the outset to, you know, people within UNHCR, within the UN sphere. So just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you've been able to make that case. Obviously, you talked about the speed, the efficiency, all of these things are super important, but for organizations that are looking to maybe adopt this technology and are, trying to de-risk it for their organizations, what would you say to them is useful?
Yeah, I think it's good to have showcases. So UNHCR is one, but I came into contact more recently with others, so we are not the only ones out there. So the key is really to find somebody who is championing. And also, I think what you can demonstrate is that you can be agile in an emergency. So that's all what counts. So if you can demonstrate that, then I think it is actually quite an easy sell in the end of the day. And everything prevailing that you still understand how you get funds in very difficult jurisdictions, areas, anti-money laundering, anti-terrorist financing, KYC, some of these things do not go away. They do not go away. But you actually have a better way of managing that. So the key is really to have that transparency and being able to report. So if things actually are not working, you have a lot better traceability there and then to report what is actually not working versus perhaps in 6 months or 1 year time, you're actually figuring out that something didn't go right. So I think it's this agility to really to be able to deliver there and then as it's needed and to be able to manage these risks much better. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's more risky. No, you'll be able to manage these risks better and more on time, every time, anywhere, on any device. So if I can say it like that.
Great. So we have, I think, 3 minutes left, which is not much time at all. But it looks like we have an iPad for questions here. Great. Okay, this is a good one. So under increasingly strict KYC regulations, refugees may find it difficult to open a bank account even after arriving in a new country. How can they off-ramp?
Yeah. Actually, we can off-ramp, so that's a good good answer here. No, the key is that refugees often have no papers, and it's very difficult for them to get papers. So there are different ways of doing that. So obviously the organizations ourselves, like in UNHCR, we know these people. We have something like 12 data points in registration. So they are known to us, but they're not known necessarily to obviously the financial ecosystem with bank accounts and so forth. So in these kind of cases, we need to make sure that we can actually off-ramp also with MoneyGram, for example, but off-ramp in specifics also with banks, where we actually provide the comfort, that these people are actually good to go. And therefore, there is, I speak a lot with my lawyers about that, to what extent we can actually provide these assurances. But they need to be provided because people without papers just, have not access to the normal services. So that's a fact, yes. So I was just saying, it doesn't go away with blockchain. That does not go away. So you need to negotiate, but again, if you actually have systems and processes that allow you to track and trace, then that's a really compelling argument to the regulator itself. And often we speak to the central bank ourselves, for example, or we speak to the financial service provider or to the bank, whoever we need to speak to provide these assurances.
Yeah, and also thanks, Carmen, for that. I would say just to clarify also with the Stellar Aid Assist product, obviously we have a network of off-ramp partners, one of them being MoneyGram, right? So MoneyGram is a partner. Obviously the KYC issue doesn't go away there, but in difficult environments in Ukraine, they're primarily using MoneyGram, for instance, as the off-ramp for the funds that are flowing to refugees in Ukraine. So this is a network that's operational even in faces of crises many times. I think we have time for one more question. So what are the biggest blockers today for the creation of the UN wallet? $1 million question.
Yeah, no, it's quite simple. Things are actually quite simple. I think it's to work together, establish the protocols, with digital identity, and making sure we understand these credentials. So it wouldn't be, from a technology point of view, it wouldn't be so difficult actually to do. dare I say. And then you have to, you have credentials for payments, as I explained it. You have, I think what is really compelling is having education and work. Again, to actually build up all that history on the wallet, and the many more sort of wrappers you can build around it to make sure that that people can use this cross-border, and many more things, many more, I would say, much more empowerment is actually, will be happening if we do that, than just individual transfers and then looking at inclusion. So this is a very, very slow way of doing things. So it's like having a kind of booster, an accelerator, how empowerment really, would be on steroids, dare I say.
Thanks, Carmen. So I think we're out of time, but I think Carmen's around the next day or two, hopefully. So I will leave her to the masses. I'm sure you can pull her aside in the next day or two, but thank you so much. And we're really looking forward to continuing our super important flagship partnership with UNHCR. And we will see you guys around the next day or two. Thank you.